The forest had always been Kara's sanctuary, but tonight it had become her tomb. She crashed through the underbrush, her human lungs burning as branches tore at her clothes and skin. Behind her, the sound of pursuit grew closer, not the careful stalking of natural predators, but the methodical hunt of something far more dangerous. The huntsman had found her. 3 months. That is how long she'd managed to stay hidden after witnessing what she shouldn't have, the massacre at Thornridge Pack territory. She'd been gathering herbs near the border when she'd seen them. Rogue wolves slaughtering an entire family under orders from someone high up in the council itself. The moment her foot snapped that twig, her life as she knew it had ended. She'd run that night too, barefoot and terrified, her basket of medicinal plants scattered across blood-soaked ground. The images haunted her dreams. The father trying to shield his mate, the teenage son fighting with claws barely grown in, the mother's final howl of anguish before silence claimed them all. And standing in the shadows, watching it all with cold calculation, had been someone wearing the council's sigil. Kara had documented everything in her grandmother's old journal, hidden it in 3 separate locations, and disappeared into the vast wilderness that separated Pack territories. She'd survived on her grandmother's teachings, which plants were safe to eat, how to mask her scent with crushed pine and creek mud, where to find shelter in hollowed trees and abandoned fox dens. But survival had a price. She was exhausted, malnourished, and running out of safe places to hide. The Shadowclaw Pack, mercenaries known for their ruthlessness, had been hired to track her down. They were patient, methodical, and they never failed to deliver their targets. Now, as the blood moon cast its crimson glow through the canopy above, Kara knew her luck had finally run out. She'd made it farther than most humans would have, but she wasn't a shifter. She had no pack, no supernatural strength, and no chance against the 5 wolves closing in on her position. Her only advantage had been her knowledge of these woods. Her grandmother had been a hedge which taught her every hidden path and sacred grove before the cancer took her. Old Magda had possessed the sight, that rare human gift that let her perceive the supernatural world. She'd traded in information and healing, maintaining neutrality between warring packs for 60 years. "You've got a touch of it too, little bird," her grandmother had told her during those final days. Not the sight, but something else. Something that will either save you or doom you. The wolves will sense it when you're grown. Kara had never understood what she meant. Until 3 months ago, she'd lived a quiet life in the border town of Millbrook, working at the botanical shop her grandmother had left her, carefully avoiding pack politics. She wasn't part of their world and wanted nothing to do with their violence and hierarchy. But witnessing a massacre had shattered that illusion of safety. The ravine appeared suddenly, and Kara skidded to a stop at its edge, loose stones tumbling into the darkness below. The sound of rushing water echoed up from somewhere far beneath. The Serpent's Throat, a deadly stretch of rapids that had claimed dozens of lives over the centuries. Behind her, yellow eyes gleamed in the shadows, and the largest of her pursuers stepped into a shaft of moonlight. "Nowhere left to run, little rabbit," Marcus Thornwood growled, his half-shifted form a nightmare of fur and malice. He was the beta of the Shadowclaw Pack, the very wolves who'd been hired to silence her. His reputation was legendary. He'd never lost a hunt, never let a target escape. You should have kept your nose out of pack business. For more wolves emerged from the treeline, forming a semicircle that trapped her against the void. She recognized their types. The gray one was a tracker, the rust-colored female a berserker, the twins with matching black masks were enforcers. A kill squad, not just hunters. "I saw everything," Kara said, forcing her voice steady even as her heart hammered against her ribs. "I know the council ordered the hit. I know about the land treaties they're trying to steal. I know about the silver mines beneath Thornridge territory. Kill me, and the evidence goes public." It was a bluff. She'd hidden her recordings and journal entries, but had no dead man's switch, no insurance policy. Just desperate words and a hope that they might believe her. Marcus laughed, the sound turning into a snarl as his pack mates fanned out on either side. Bold words from a dead woman. "You think we didn't sweep your little shop? Your pathetic apartment? We found your hiding spots, rabbit. Every single one." Kara's blood turned to ice. The journal, the photographs, the recorded conversations she'd captured on her grandmother's old tape recorder. If they had everything. "You've got nothing left," Marcus continued, clearly enjoying her despair. No leverage, no hope, no future. The council sends their regards. He lunged. Time crystallized into perfect, terrible clarity. Kara saw Marcus's muscles bunch, saw the killing intent in his eyes, saw the other wolves moving to cut off any lateral escape. She had perhaps 2 seconds before claws found her throat. She threw herself backward into the void. The ravine swallowed her, and for a moment there was only the sensation of weightlessness, a strange, almost peaceful surrender to gravity and fate. The wind screamed in her ears, whipping her hair around her face. Above, she glimpsed Marcus skidding to a halt at the edge, his expression shifting from triumph to shock. Then she was falling in earnest, the rocky walls of the ravine blurring past, the roar of water growing louder, the certainty of death rushing up to meet her. This was how it ended, not in the jaws of wolves, but shattered on rocks or drowned in rapids. Perhaps it was a better death. Cleaner, at least. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. When the choice is between the wolf and the water, choose the water. At least it's honest about wanting to kill you. Kara closed her eyes and waited for impact. It came from the side. Something massive slammed into her midair, and suddenly, she wasn't falling alone. Strong arms wrapped around her body as a form much larger than human twisted beneath her, taking the position that would absorb the worst of the impact. She caught a glimpse of amber eyes and dark fur before they crashed through a thick layer of pine branches. The branches slowed their descent, but didn't stop it. They hit 2 more layers of vegetation before plunging into the icy river below. The shock of cold water drove the air from Kara's lungs, and the current immediately tried to rip her away from her rescuer. But those arms didn't let go, even as they tumbled through the rapids, bouncing off rocks and submerged logs. Her lungs burned. Her vision darkened. She was going to drown in the arms of whoever had been crazy enough to jump after her. Then they broke the surface. Kara gasped and choked, her body instinctively fighting even as her mind struggled to process what was happening. Strong strokes pulled her toward the riverbank, fighting the current with supernatural strength. They reached a calmer eddy, and her rescuer dragged her toward the rocky shore. When her hands touched stone, Kara scrambled onto the bank, coughing up river water and shaking with cold and adrenaline. Her clothes were torn, her body bruised, but she was alive. Impossibly, incredibly alive. The wolf standing between her and the ravine's edge was massive, easily twice the size of Marcus's half-shifted form. Water streamed from silver-tipped black fur that seemed to absorb the moonlight rather than reflect it. But it was the distinctive white mark across his right eye that made recognition slam into her like a physical blow. Decades of rogues and pack wars had made his reputation legendary. Children were warned about him in bedtime stories. Alpha spoke his name in cautious whispers. He was supposed to be a myth, a ghost story, a cautionary tale about what happened when you challenged the old ways. Darius Blackwood, the exile, the Alpha who'd walked away from everything. But he wasn't supposed to be real. And he definitely wasn't supposed to be here, dripping wet and watching her with eyes that held far too much intelligence for any animal. The wolf turned his massive head toward her, and their eyes met. His a startling amber gold that seemed to see straight through her, past her fear and exhaustion to something deeper. Something she didn't understand. A sensation rolled through her body like warm honey, starting at the base of her spine and spreading outward until every nerve ending tingled with awareness. It wasn't fear, though she should be terrified. It wasn't gratitude, though she owed him her life. It was something primal and undeniable, a recognition that bypassed her conscious mind entirely. Mine, something deep inside her whispered. Safe. Home. The wolf's eyes widened fractionally, as if he heard that internal voice, and then he was shifting. The transformation was nothing like Marcus's violent, partial change. This was smooth, controlled, almost beautiful, bones restructuring in a flow of power that spoke of ancient bloodlines and perfect mastery. The man who stood before her was tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that touched his collar and a face marked by thin scars that only emphasized his harsh beauty. He looked to be in his early 30s, though she knew enough about shifter aging to understand he could be much older. Water dripped from his body, and Kara found herself staring before forcing her gaze away, her cheeks heating despite the cold. "Run," he said, his voice a deep rumble that resonated in her chest. "Follow the river south. There's a cabin about 2 miles downstream. Red door, wards carved into the frame. You'll be safe there until—" A howl cut through the night, echoing off the ravine walls. Marcus and his pack had found their way down. They'd be here in minutes. "Too late for running," Darius said, his stance shifting as power rippled across his skin. His eyes began to glow with that eerie amber light. "Stay behind me." "There's 5 of them," Kara protested, even as she grabbed a fallen branch. Useless against shifters, but her only weapon. Her hands were shaking, but she refused to be completely helpless. Darius glanced at her, and something that might have been approval flickered across his face. "I know. Then you know you can't. I've survived worse odds." He moved to put himself between her and the direction of the howls. "Besides, I'm not letting them take you." Before she could respond, shadows emerged from the forest. They came in a rush of fur and fangs, Marcus in the lead, his pack spreading out in a practiced flanking maneuver. The gray tracker went left, the rust berserker right, the twin enforcers taking high ground on an outcropping of rocks. A perfect kill box, if their target had been anyone else. Darius met them head-on. His transformation was explosive and devastating, the shift happening mid-leap. One moment he was a man, the next a massive black wolf whose jaws closed around Marcus's throat before the beta could react. They hit the ground in a tangle of fur and fury, Darius's supernatural strength immediately apparent as he threw Marcus 10 feet into a tree. The gray tracker lunged for Darius's exposed flank, but the exile was already moving, his combat style a deadly dance of precision and raw power. He caught the gray wolf's paw mid-swipe, twisted, and Kara heard bones snap. The tracker's yelp of pain was cut short as Darius's claws raked across its shoulder, sending it tumbling toward the river. The berserker came next, living up to her designation with a wild, frenzied attack. She was faster than the others, smaller but more vicious, her teeth finding purchase on Darius's hind leg. He snarled in pain but used her momentum against her, rolling and hurling her into one of the twin enforcers. Kara watched in horrified fascination, her branch clutched uselessly in her hands. This was violence on a scale she'd never witnessed, not the quick, brutal massacre she'd seen 3 months ago, but a sustained battle between apex predators. The sound alone was terrifying. Snarls and growls, the crack of breaking branches, the meaty thud of bodies colliding. Darius was magnificent and terrible, his centuries of experience evident in every move. He fought with the efficiency that spoke of countless battles, always positioning himself between Kara and the attackers, never giving them an angle to reach her. But even legends could be worn down. Marcus recovered, his eyes blazing with fury. "Take him down," he roared, his voice distorted by his half-shifted form. "He's just one wolf." The pack coordinated their next assault. The twins came high while Marcus and the recovered tracker came low, forcing Darius to defend multiple angles. The berserker circled around, looking for an opening. She found one. While Darius was engaged with the twins, teeth and claws flashing in the moonlight, the berserker broke through his guard. But she wasn't heading for him. She was heading straight for Kara. Time seemed to slow. Kara saw the berserker's eyes, wild with battle fury and completely focused on her throat. She saw the muscles bunch for the final leap. She swung her branch desperately, but the wolf batted it aside like kindling. She saw death approaching with absolute certainty, and then Darius was there. He moved faster than should be possible, abandoning his defense entirely to intercept the berserker. He took the full force of her attack, her claws raking deep across his ribs, opening furrows that immediately began streaming blood. The berserker realized her mistake too late. Darius's jaws closed around her neck, and he threw her away from Kara with such force that she hit a boulder and went still. But the injury was serious. Kara could see it even from where she stood, the way Darius stumbled, the amount of blood pouring from his side, darkening his black fur to something even deeper. And then everything changed. The scent of Darius's blood hit the air, and the entire dynamic of the battle shifted in an instant. Kara watched in shock as Marcus staggered backward, his eyes going wide with recognition and sudden, overwhelming fear. The gray tracker immediately lowered its head in submission, throat exposed. whining in distress. The twins dropped from their perch and pressed themselves flat against the ground. The berserker, semi-conscious against the boulder, still managed to bare her throat in instinctive submission. Impossible, Marcus breathed, shifting back to human form, his earlier aggression completely shattered. His hands were shaking, his face pale. "You're sent. You're not just any exile. You're not just an alpha. You are," his voice cracked. "You're the true alpha, the firstborn of the Blackwood line. The council said you were dead. They showed us proof." Darius straightened slowly, blood streaming down his side, his expression carved from ice. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made the air itself feel heavier. "They've been saying that for 5 years. They faked my death, stripped my titles, and tried to erase my bloodline from history. They're welcome to keep believing I'm gone." Kara's mind reeled. True alpha. She'd heard the term whispered in her shop when pack members thought she wasn't listening. It wasn't just a title, it was a birthright, a designation for the original bloodlines that had founded the pack Congress centuries ago. There were supposed to be 7 true alpha lines, each with the power to command lesser packs through sheer force of will and ancient blood right. But the Blackwood line had been declared extinct. Everyone knew that. But if you're alive, Marcus looked between Darius and Kara, understanding dawning in his eyes. His nostrils flared as he scented the air, and his expression shifted to something close to horror. "The mate bond. We can all smell it now, in your blood. She's mine," Darius confirmed, the single word carrying the weight of absolute law. His amber eyes found Kara's, and in them she saw confirmation of what she'd been feeling since the moment their gazes first met. Which means the council just ordered a hit on the true alpha's mate. I wonder how they explain that to the pack Congress when I bring formal charges of blood treachery. The silence that followed was deafening. Blood treachery, attacking the mate of a true alpha, was one of the few crimes that could unite all packs in calling for execution. It was a violation of the most sacred laws, the kind that started wars and ended bloodlines. Marcus looked like he might vomit. "We didn't know. Blackwood, you have to believe we didn't know. You knew she was innocent," Darius said coldly. "You knew she was human and defenseless. You knew you were following orders to murder a witness to council corruption. Whether you knew she was my mate is irrelevant." "What do you want?" Marcus asked desperately. His pack members were still frozen in submission, too terrified to move. "Name your price. Anything. We'll testify against the council. We'll run," Darius said softly. The word was gentle, but the command in it was undeniable. "Run back to whoever hired you, and tell them exactly what you found here. Tell them the true alpha lives. Tell them he's reclaiming his seat on the Congress. And tell them that if they send anyone else after my mate, I'll consider it a declaration of war." Marcus and his wolves were already moving, backing away from a political nightmare that could ignite conflict between all packs. The gray tracker had to help the berserker to her feet, and they disappeared into the forest like shadows fleeing the dawn. As their footsteps faded, Darius's legs buckled. The adrenaline that had sustained him through the battle was wearing off, and the injury to his ribs was severe. He managed to shift back to human form before he collapsed to his knees, one hand pressed against the deep gashes in his side. Kara dropped her branch and ran to him, her earlier fear forgotten in the face of his need. Up close, the injuries looked even worse, 4 parallel cuts that went deep into the muscle, possibly nicking a lung. "You're hurt," she said, her hands hovering over the wounds, unsure where to touch without causing more pain. "I've had worse," Darius said, though his voice was strained. His amber eyes found hers again, and despite the pain, they were gentle. "Are you all right? Did they hurt you before?" "I'm fine because of you," Kara interrupted. "You saved me. Twice." "What?" Darius was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry. I've been watching over you for weeks, trying to keep my distance. Mates are rare between species, and I didn't want to drag you into my world. I thought if I just protected you from the shadows, kept you safe until the council's interest moved elsewhere, but it seems fate had other plans." Kara's breath caught. Weeks. He'd been guarding her for weeks, and she'd never known. All those times she'd felt watched in the forest, the strange sense of safety she'd felt even while being hunted, that had been him. "I don't understand," she said. "What's a mate bond? And what's a true alpha?" "I'm just human. I'm not part of your world. You are now," Darius said, and despite everything, the blood, The battle, the danger, there was warmth in his expression. A mate bond is. It's destiny, for lack of a better word. Souls, recognizing each other across species, across time. It's rare, precious, and absolutely binding. From the moment we locked eyes, you became the most important thing in my world. Kara thought about that sensation of recognition, the way her body had responded to his presence, the inexplicable certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. I felt something, she admitted, when I first saw you. Like coming home. That's the bond, Darius confirmed. He winced as he shifted position, and Kara noticed the blood flow wasn't slowing. And as for what I am, true alphas are the original bloodlines, the founders of pack law. We have certain abilities. Authority over lesser wolves. The right to sit on the pack congress and shape policy for all shifter kind. It's a responsibility I walked away from 5 years ago for reasons I'll explain when we somewhere safe. We need to get you medical attention, Kara said, her practical nature asserting itself despite the surreal turn her life had taken. Those wounds will heal, Darius assured her, though his pallor suggested otherwise. Shifters recover from most injuries given time. But you're right that we need to move. Marcus will report to his. While he slept, Kara explored the cabin more thoroughly. The main room was sparse, just the couch, a rough-hewn table with 2 chairs, and the fireplace. But the details told stories. Claw marks on the doorframe from someone who'd shifted in haste, a shelf of books on shifter law and history, a map on the wall marked with territories and notes in a cramped hand. The kitchen was surprisingly well-stocked with non-perishables and jerky that was probably venison. The bathroom had basic supplies plus those herbal tinctures she'd noticed. Wolfsbane for fever, silverwort for poison, moonflower for calming aggressive shifts. The bedroom was the most personal. The cabin appeared like something out of a fairy tale, nestled in a grove of ancient pines with morning mist curling around its foundation. The red door was exactly as Darius had described, and carved into the wooden frame were symbols Kara recognized from her grandmother's journals. Words of protection, privacy, and warning. Your grandmother taught you well if you can read those, Darius observed, his voice weaker than it had been. The 2-mile journey had taken nearly an hour, and he was leaning heavily on Kara now, leaving a trail of blood droplets on the forest floor. She said every wise woman should know the old marks, Kara replied, helping him up the 3 steps to the porch. She never told me they actually worked. She was protecting you, Darius said. Knowledge of the supernatural draws attention. The less you knew, the safer you were. That didn't work out so well, Kara muttered. Darius managed a weak laugh that turned into a wince. No, I suppose it didn't. The door was unlocked. Apparently, when you carved wards that could keep out anyone you didn't want entering, physical locks were redundant. Inside, the cabin was sparse but comfortable. A main room with a stone fireplace, a small kitchen area, a bathroom, and what looked like a bedroom through a partially open door. Kara guided Darius to a worn leather couch and helped him lie down. In the better light, his injuries looked even worse. The bleeding had slowed but not stopped, and his skin had a gray pallor that worried her. First aid kit, she asked. Darius gestured toward the bathroom, under the sink. But Kara, I need you to understand. Normal first aid won't help much. These wounds need to be cleaned, but they'll heal on their own. My body just needs time and rest. My grandmother taught me more than reading wards, Kara said firmly, already moving toward the bathroom. She treated shifters sometimes, the ones who couldn't risk going to pack healers. She found the first aid kit, but also noticed several bottles of herbs and tinctures that confirmed this was more than just a hunting cabin. This was a safe house, stocked for emergencies. When she returned, Darius had his eyes closed, his breathing shallow. Kara's heart clenched with an emotion she didn't want to examine too closely. Fear of losing someone she just found. Protectiveness towards someone who'd been protecting her. Stay with me, she said, settling beside him with supplies. You promised me answers, remember? Darius opened his eyes, and despite his condition, there was warmth in his gaze. I'm not going anywhere. It would take more than a berserker's claws to kill me. Famous last words, Kara muttered, but carefully began cleaning the wounds. To his credit, Darius barely flinched, though she could see the muscle in his jaw tighten. So, true alpha. Start there. Darius took a breath, then began speaking as Kara worked. In the beginning, there were 7 families who led the shifter world. the Blackwoods, Thorn Ridges, Silver Fangs, Iron Claws, Moon Shadows, Stormcallers, and Night Howlers. Each family possessed unique gifts and governed their territories with absolute authority. We called ourselves True Alphas because our bloodlines traced back to the first shifters, before the curse spread and created lesser wolves. Curse? Kara asked, threading a needle with steady hands. The wounds would heal on their own, but stitching them would speed the process and prevent infection. The origin of shifters is complicated, Darius said. Most believe it was a gift from the moon goddess. Some say it was a punishment for ancient sins. The truth is probably somewhere in between. But the original 7 families could control their transformations completely, shift at will regardless of the moon, and command lesser wolves through force of presence alone. Kara began stitching, her movements precise and efficient. And you're one of these true alphas. I was, Darius corrected. 5 years ago, I walked away from the Pack Congress. The other true alphas were disappointed. Disappointed enough to fake your death? Some of them. His expression darkened. The Pack Congress had become corrupt, more interested in power and profit than justice. We were supposed to protect all shifters, maintain balance with the human world, preserve the old ways. Instead, we were stealing territory, exploiting lesser packs, making deals with humans who wanted to exploit our abilities for profit. Like the silver mines, Kara said, connecting the pieces. That's what the Thornridge family was sitting on. Someone wanted them out of the way. The Thornridges were one of the 7 founding families, Darius confirmed. They refused to sell mining rights to a human corporation that had paid off half the Congress. So someone decided extinction was easier than negotiation. Kara's hand stilled. They killed an entire true alpha family? How is that even possible? By making it look like a rogue attack and using a pack like Shadowclaw to do the actual killing. Marcus and his wolves are guns for hire. They don't ask questions, they just complete contracts. They had no idea they were being used to commit genocide. But I saw someone wearing a council sigil, Kara said, resuming her stitching. Someone was supervising the massacre. That's why you became a target, Darius said quietly. You can identify who ordered it. And if the other true alphas knew that one of the council was directly involved in killing a founding family, it would mean civil war. Kara tied off the last stitch and sat back, examining her work. The wounds were closed, already looking less angry than they had minutes ago. Shifter healing was remarkable. So you've been hiding, she said, letting them think you're dead while they tear apart everything you believe in. I've been planning, Darius corrected. Building alliances with lesser packs who are tired of council tyranny. Gathering evidence of corruption. Waiting for the right moment to return and reclaim my seat. I just needed proof, something undeniable that would force the other true alphas to listen. Understanding dawned. I'm your proof. I witnessed a true alpha family being murdered on council orders. You're more than that, Darius said softly. His hand reached up to touch her cheek, the gesture tentative, as if he was afraid she might pull away. You're my mate. My destiny. The one thing in 5 years of planning I never saw coming. Kara felt that warmth spreading through her again, that sensation of rightness that defied logic. She should be terrified. She should run. Instead, she found herself leaning into his touch. I don't understand this bond, she admitted. I don't understand what I'm feeling. Yesterday, I was running for my life, and now. Now you're tangled up with a fallen alpha who's about to start a war, Darius finished. I'm sorry, Kara. I tried to protect you without revealing myself. I thought if I could just keep you safe until what? Kara interrupted. Until someone else killed me? Until you'd gathered your evidence, and I was no longer useful? She pulled back, sudden anger flaring. You've been watching me for weeks. Following me. Protecting me. But you never once thought to actually introduce yourself? To warn me. Darius had the grace to look ashamed. Mate bonds are intense, especially between shifters and humans. I didn't want to overwhelm you. Didn't want to drag you into a world where you'd become a target just for being associated with me. I thought I could keep you safe without you ever knowing. How's that working out? Kara asked dryly. Despite everything, Darius laughed. Terribly. You're absolutely right. I made the wrong choice. His honesty took some of the wind out of her anger. Kara sighed and began gathering the medical supplies. Well, I'm already a target, already tangled up in your war, and apparently destined to be your mate whether either of us planned it or not. So maybe you should stop trying to protect me from the truth and start treating me like a partner. Darius studied her for a long moment. something like admiration in his amber eyes. "You're handling this remarkably well. Most humans would be screaming or in shock." "My grandmother raised me on stories of the supernatural world," Kara said, moving to the kitchen to wash her hands. "And I've spent 3 months running from shifter assassins. I think I'm past the point of denial." "Fair enough," Darius conceded. He tried to sit up, winced, and Kara was immediately at his side. "Stop moving," she ordered. "Your body needs rest to heal." "I've had worse injuries," Darius protested, but he settled back against the couch cushions. "I don't care how tough true alphas are supposed to be," Kara said firmly. "You're staying put for at least a few hours." She found a blanket and draped it over him. "Now keep talking. You said there were 7 true alpha families. Your Blackwood and the Thornridges were wiped out. What about the others?" Darius closed his eyes, exhaustion clear in his features. "The Silverfangs and Ironclaws control the Eastern Territories. They're the most corrupt, the ones pushing hardest for human partnerships that exploit lesser packs. The Moonshadows are isolationists who stay neutral in most conflicts. The Stormcallers are warriors who've been fighting a territorial war in the north. And the Night Howlers. What about them?" Kara prompted when he trailed off. "The Night Howlers are led by Elena Night Howler," Darius said, and something in his tone made Kara's stomach twist. "My former betrothed." The word hit Kara like a physical blow, and she hated the jealousy that immediately flared in her chest. "Former. The match was political," Darius explained. "Arranged when we were children to unite the 2 most powerful, true alpha lines. We grew up together, trained together, were groomed to eventually lead the Pack Congress as a united force." He opened his eyes, looking directly at Kara. "I broke the engagement 5 years ago when I left the Congress." Elena considered it a betrayal. "Does she know you're alive?" Kara asked. "I'm not sure," Darius admitted. "If she does, she's kept that knowledge to herself. Elena is complicated. She believed in the old ways as much as I did, but she also believes in power and hierarchy. She might see my return as an opportunity, or she might see it as a threat to her position. So we can't count on her support." "No," Darius agreed. "We can't count on anyone except ourselves and the lesser packs I've been cultivating." Which brings us to our immediate problem. Kara settled into a chair across from him, tucking her feet under her. Despite everything, the danger, the uncertainty, the complete upheaval of her life, she felt strangely calm. Perhaps it was the mate bond, or perhaps she was just too exhausted to panic anymore. "What's the immediate problem?" she asked. "Marcus will report back to whoever hired Shadowclaw," Darius said. "They'll know I'm alive, that you're my mate, and that we have evidence of the Thornridge massacre. They'll move quickly to either eliminate us before I can reach the Pack Congress, or they'll try to discredit us. We have maybe 48 hours before this cabin is compromised. Then we move," Kara said simply. "Where do we go?" Darius smiled, and despite his injuries, there was something fierce and proud in his expression. "I knew you were strong. I felt it the first time I saw you." He took a breath. "We go to the Gathering Grounds, neutral territory where the Pack Congress meets. If I can reach the council chambers and invoke my right as a true alpha to call for tribunal, they'll have to hear my testimony. And yours. And if they don't want to hear it, then," Darius said softly, "we start a revolution."